Hey everyone. So I get asked a lot about like my best recommendations for a beginner Magfed setup. So we thought we'd do a video of just like our recommended beginner Magfed setup for 2022. So if you're looking to get into Magfed paintball and you're looking for suggestions, watch this video because that's basically what it is. And we're not going to get into too much crazy detail. We're not going to go too crazy on the accessorizing and stuff like that. Everything we're suggesting here is like the bare minimum you need to play, but it'll actually get the job done and it won't leave you like wanting more. So for the marker itself, I would have to suggest a Tippmann Stormer Elite. The main reason for that is that A, it's pretty cheap, and not cheap in a bad way. It's like it's not going to fall apart on you. It works, but it's just not crazy expensive. It's one of the cheapest Magfed markers you can buy, and it works. And it's either Magfed or hopper fed, which is really, really big when you're just getting into Magfed. You may think that you want to shoot Magfed 100% of the time, and then you get into it, and there may be days where you just kind of want to slap a hopper on, and you don't want to have to sit there winding mags and stuff like that. So with the Stormer Elite, you can do that. You can switch it from hopper to magazine, so it means like you got a marker for both occasions. Means you can use it however you want. And that's big. It's a Tippmann, so it's super reliable. They're super durable. They last forever. Generally they're really, really good choices for beginners. Like if you don't know a lot about maintaining a marker, a Tippmann is a really good choice to go with. They just don't require a lot of maintenance. And if they do, it's generally not that bad. So moving on, you're gonna, obviously if you're running Magfed, you're gonna need somewhere to put mags. You're gonna need to be able to carry your mags. I don't have a specific suggestion for this. All I'm saying is resist the temptation to buy a vest that's like prefabricated and it has all of the pouches already attached. So basically there's two options you can go with. You can either go with a vest that just has pouches on it and they're sewn on there. You can't take them off. You can't move them around. They're just there. They tend to be a little bit cheaper. And then you have what's basically a vest that has molly webbing, which is these straps that go across it. And then you can attach whatever pouches you want, wherever you want them. I am strongly recommending you guys go with the one with molly webbing. It's not the cheapest option right off the bat. It will probably run you a little bit more money to go that way, but it's going to last you way longer. If you go with a prefab vest where everything's just attached and you decide that you want to, down the line, you want to move some things around, well, you can't. You got to buy a new vest. Or if you decide that you want to change your marker type and you're going for something with different shaped magazines, you need different pouches, well, you got to buy a new vest. If you're going with something that's molly-webbed though, and you want to move some pouches around, you just move them around. If you want to replace one type of pouch with a different type of pouch, you just do that. The actual vest itself is going to last like pretty much forever, and then you're just going to configure it however you need it to be configured, like as you need it. I have one basically vest that I've had it for years, and it's been reconfigured like 3 or 4 times as my like equipment changes over time, and it's not a big deal. I just take some pouches off, put more pouches on, change where they are, blah blah blah. But the actual like vest itself is still going, and I've had it for years. So strongly recommend that. You don't have to do that. You can just buy any old cheap vest as long as it holds your mags, but down the line you may kind of regret not going with one that's a little bit more versatile. So moving on from vests, in terms of masks, what mask to get, there are quite a lot of options. I would probably recommend an Empire Helix just because they're really affordable, but they still work really well. They come with a dual pane lens. That's the most important part. Like honestly, guys, do not buy a mask that doesn't have a dual pane lens. Just don't do it. Even if you only think you're going to be playing paintball like once ever, it won't be worth it because you will have a bad time because your mask will be fogging up the whole time. Get something with a dual pane lens. I recommend an Empire Helix just because it's not going to break the bank, but it's totally going to work. There are other options out there. There's lots of good like entry-level masks, but again, just make sure it's something with a dual pane lens. Do not mess around with single pane. You will regret it. Trust me. And the final thing would be, the last thing you need is obviously like an air tank. And I'm specifically saying air tank. Don't get a CO2 tank. Do not do it. Don't get CO2. It might seem cheaper right off the bat, but it's going to run you more money in the long run. Trust me. Almost every paintball field will fill an air tank for free, an HBA tank, and they're going to charge you money every single time to fill a CO2 tank. So it doesn't take long before you've paid more for the CO2 just because you got to pay every time to fill it versus the air tank where they're now filling it for free. Also, there's just a bunch of other reasons why you don't want to use CO2. You will end up doing more maintenance on your marker. It's bad for your O-rings. It can give you weird velocity spikes if you're like playing in extreme cold or extreme heat, or you're just pulling the trigger a lot. Like, CO2 is just weird, bad. You shouldn't mess around with it if you can avoid it. So get an air tank. I know it's a little bit more money right off the bat, but trust me, it's worth it. And in terms of which air tank to get, honestly, you got options there too. There's two main options that most people go with. One is either you run a 13 CI directly into the marker itself. That is going to be your lightest, most mobile option. It's just like a little air tank. Obviously, it doesn't have as much capacity as a bigger air tank, but if you're playing Magfed, it's got more than enough. Like, it'll get you a full game before you have to refill the air tank. And it's light, it's mobile, it's not big and bulky. Or if you want to get a tank, like a larger tank with more capacity so you don't have to fill it up as often, just go with like a regular 48 3000 tank and run a remote line. You can attach any old tank you want to a Stormer, but like, you'll find that the bigger the tank, the more awkward it is, the heavier your marker gets. It's just not so fun. So I would recommend just get any old 48 3000. They're the most common type of tank, so they're generally not very expensive. And get a pouch, put it on your back, and run a remote line from that tank to the marker. And that way, you're not carrying the weight of the tank around it. It's just, a little bit nicer, a little bit lighter, a little bit easier. But yeah, so you got options. You got way more options than that, to be perfectly honest. This is just, in my opinion, kind of one of the best starter Magfed like setups, at least right now. Maybe next year there'll be some different stuff out. Maybe that list will change. Maybe we'll do another video when that happens. But yeah, Tippmann Stormer Elite, any old Molly Vest, Empire Helix, and either a 13 3000 or a 48 3000 and a remote line. Those are my recommendations. If you have all those things, yeah, you're good to play Magfed. You're good to play, as much or as little as you want. And after that, any kind of accessories, any kind of fancy stuff, that's entirely up to you. But if you get that list, you'll be at least able to hit the field and at least able to play. So what do you guys think? Like, do you have any other suggestions, especially for like a beginner, like somebody who's new to the scene? Like, what do you recommend if someone is trying to get into Magfed? Like, what do you think is a really good like beginner purchase? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching.